Yeah, so I'm going to make a very odd statement. This statement is going to be very hard for a lot of gardeners to digest. Having the wrong plant instead of bare soil is to your advantage as a gardener. And let me clarify that. So if I have, let's say, these ferns taking over this space, this banana, and I have something that I don't like that is in the garden, I am better off having my ground covered, having my ground working, than waiting for that right plant to come along. I am better off putting the wrong plant in the ground and having it working the soil, having it covering the soil from erosion and sun damage and all those things. So for me right now, the way I garden, the wrong plant is always better than no plant. So just keep that in mind. If you're a very stingy garden, you only allow certain plants into your garden, you're very selective. This idea of being open to plant diversity is a real blessing for your garden. It is just a learning curve that we have to get over and understand how important it is to have this entanglement of life, this covering of the soil. It is a lot more important than having something that is a dream plant or a dream species for us. This idea of creating life or creating a place for life to unfold is a lot stronger than plant species themselves. Yeah, when you're not plant selective, something very magical happens. The spaces fill up. My biggest concern is that these plants are going to outgrow their space. They're going to cause a burnout effect where they grow too fast or they grow too intertangled. But so far it seems that life likes to be surrounded by life. Life needs to work with other life. We have so many birds here now. They bring these odd seeds, which is fantastic. They feel comfortable here. We have lizards everywhere. Butterflies show up, pollinators, insects. And it's because we have life that is intertangled, interwoven, and working together really well. So this idea of starting with plant diversity, my feeling is that that is the start of this process where you have plants inviting the rest of the fauna into your garden. So it starts with vegetation, it ends with vegetation. If this was a bare piece of land, I doubt very much the birds would come. Everything is food related. And what I mean by food related is they want some type of benefit when they come into your garden. They want nectar, they want seeds, they want shelter, they want protection from the rain. All those things are provided by plants. So this idea of creating a garden where everything is welcome, every plant is welcomed as long as it has a purpose and it doesn't invade your garden. If you have that invitation in your garden, everything will grow and everything will flourish. It's very interesting, and I always talk about a garden being in motion. And what that really means is that you have a forward movement in your garden, and your garden is growing in such a way that these plants are all working together, helping each other. They're protecting the soil from being touched by the sun. They're allowing flowers to come through. They're producing green matter. So once you have a forward movement in your garden, you have achieved something that is perpetual almost. Sure, you have to add compost here and there, and you have to prune, and you have to do all these things. But at one point, your garden gets so entangled that life is so powerful that you basically don't have to do a lot more work. These plants have this interconnectivity. They can work together. They can achieve so many things together. And if you take advantage of that, your garden will flourish. So remember, don't be plant shy, be plant generous. Allow all kinds of strange plants into your garden. They will reward you. Don't be a plant snob. Be very generous what you allow into your garden.
Yeah, allowing plants that you don't like into your garden or that might take over your garden requires you to have great soil. With great soil, it is incredibly easy to remove plants, to move them around, to remove them. It all starts with great soil. If you want to be plant liberal, like having lots of odd plants in your garden, then you have to be able to remove them and move them around in your garden very easily. The only way to do that is with great soil. Great soil is such an asset when it comes to moving and creating gardenscapes that are very plant diverse.
So it's really interesting. I've changed my focus in this garden completely. So I had this bare piece of land and I wasn't plant selective. And what I mean by that is I put whatever I could find in the ground to cover the soil. I realized very quickly that the sun here is very different because we're right on the equator. It rains beautifully here. We have this great mist right now. The plants have enough sunlight. Everything's perfect. You couldn't really ask for any more of a better climate to grow inside of. It is so perfect, this weather. It's like somebody coming with a spray bottle and misting everything and then coming back with some sun. So this idea of allowing almost anything into your garden is sacrilegious for me, especially. I like, really special plants, specimen plants, whatever it takes to make a beautiful garden. Here, I took a very different approach by filling everything in quickly, as quick as I could. Get the ground covered, get everything working. Make choices later, like I'm gonna put a mulberry tree here right now. I'm making these choices on the fly. They're not programmed in such a way that I have too much of an end result in my mind. It is chaos. It is making sure that you have enough plants to do what you want to do. Growing seeds like crazy. Getting stuff in the ground. Getting stuff for composting. Get green matter. This idea of allowing diversity into your garden is a learned behavior. Most gardeners, especially in North America, they have, a compartment system where Japanese maple with a sumac beside it, or some evergreens, and all these things are really pre-programmed. This idea of covering your ground, getting it working, is hard for most gardeners, but it is very effective. I have a chance of making this garden work just because I wasn't plant specific. I was very liberal in the choices of, what went into this garden, when it was planted, what it is doing for the garden. All those things are very specific in terms of being open to growing almost anything you can find. There is a fine line when you getting into stuff that is incredibly invasive.